actually happened on January 6th?
So there is, as it seems that I find myself in a similar situation as Russiagate, because on January 6th in the prior Trump administration, I was the chief of staff to the Department of Defense, and I spent 4 years and a minor fortune litigating the truth because people politicized what actually happened on January 6th. And we now know unequivocally that President Trump lawfully authorized the deployment of National Guard, and me as the head of the Office of Secretary of Defense, with the Secretary of Defense, took that action. When it finally came in, because it had to have the governor and mayor of D.C.'s approval on it. That's the way the law works. And once it finally came in on January 6th, remember, we offered to them days beforehand, and they rejected it. And we've put out the letters, and your show has done great coverage showing how it was rejected. We mobilized the fastest cold start in Washington, D.C. since World War II, and the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution. That's what happened on January 6th. But what you and your viewers want to know, now that we've beat back that disinformation campaign with actual truth, is what was the FBI doing? Well, we got answers coming. We just found a trove of information, and it's on its way to Capitol Hill right now. And they've asked, and they're getting them, and you're getting answers on January 6th. You're getting answers on what sourcing was utilized, what money was utilized, how many assets were utilized, who made those decisions. You're getting it. We can only control the FBI, but you're getting it from the FBI.
Were there FBI agents undercover egging people on?
Like I said, that answer is coming, and it's on its way to Congress.
You're about to, I saw it. I saw the portfolio of information. We dug far and wide to find it, and I'm pretty sure now we have a conclusive, definitive answer, but you and the public are going to have it. You're going to see it in writing over to Capitol Hill. But I just want to be sure we're clear, having been an agent and a police officer. There is a difference between an agent, I know you know this, I don't mean to sound ridiculous, an agent, meaning a trained GS 1811 federal agent, and a source or an asset. There's a difference. So when you see the material, which I promise you is coming, again, I'm not asking you to trust us. I know it's coming because I saw it yesterday.
So the long-awaited interview with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino ran today. I'm going to show it to you in its entirety, and then I'll let you guys decide what you think about what the two of them have to say. We've all been waiting for something to happen. Now we have to wonder, is this going to be enough to satisfy the doomsayers? I don't know. Make up your own mind. Let's check it out.
We begin this Sunday morning with increasing calls to investigate and possibly arrest Jim Comey after the former FBI director posted an image on social media suggesting a call to assassinate President Trump. Comey was interviewed by the Secret Service on Friday and is now facing a string of federal probes after he posted an image of a beach scene with seashells arranged in the numbers 8647, writing this: cool shell formation on my beach walk. The number 86 typically refers to elimination, and President Trump is, of course, the 47th president. After much public outcry on social media, Comey took down the post, claiming he was not aware that 86 refers to eliminating something and that he opposes violence. There have already been 2 assassination attempts on President Trump's life, which are still under investigation by the FBI. After the incident, new FBI Director Kash Patel told me he is in the middle of an active investigation into this matter. Days earlier, the two walked us through Comey's weaponization of the FBI, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, as well as some of the other important cases that they are working on, including drug and human trafficking cells operating in America today, the events of January 6th, and Jeffrey Epstein's death. But the director began by praising his 30,000-plus colleagues at the FBI during this National Police Week.
It's Police Week, Maria, and so it's a really momentous occasion for law enforcement, for the sacrifices they put in for the country. The deputy and I have been going to events all week, and the most painful part is being with the families of the fallen. But we're here to remind America that there's a consequence to the freedom that they have, and there's good men and women that keep stepping up for that fight. So, it's a big deal that you're here on Police Week.
Thank you. And I saw the honor wall, and I want to walk past that with you. I unfortunately was on Wall Street on 9/11, and my heart goes out to the families who've lost their loved ones. Dan?
Yeah, 9/11. I was an agent on 9/11 with the Secret Service, and I just remember, as you probably do, even from the media perspective, the chaos. Remember, nothing worked like we thought it was going to work. So the director and I, we've both been deeply inspired, obviously, as everyone in America was, by tragic, horrible incident. But I know when Kash and I are sitting there in the morning, that is the single motivating factor for us, is keep the homeland safe. That is priority number one.
And I want to ask you about that. Now, I'll go into some of the specifics, but Director, you've said many times that the FBI has been politicized. Mm-hmm. So what are your plans to rebuild trust in this fine institution and depoliticize the FBI?
So we have a multi-part process. First of all, our priorities, simple: crush violent crime, defend the homeland, rigorous organizational accountability, and the fourth, which leads directly to your question, aggressive constitutional oversight with Congress. The way we rebuild trust is we already have the men and women here in the rank and file that signed up to be cops, that signed up to be intel analysts, that signed up to be special support staff, that want to do the work. That's why we're sending them into the field. We can talk about that later. What we need America to know is that this place was politicized, and Congress has rightfully requested the documents from Crossfire Hurricane to January 6th to the Richmond Catholic Memo and so much more. But now finally Americans are reading for themselves the documentation where a very select few leaders in the former FBI decided to politicize it. We don't need me and the deputy telling you it's politicized. We want the American people to read it, and now they are.
And I know I lived with it for you. I watched it with you and Devin Nunes when you were truth tellers on all of this, and you were as well, Dan, throughout the Russia collusion story and the rest.
Look, I can speak to the folks that were in our seats, our predecessors, and they intentionally failed the American public by putting on the biggest DC deception game we've ever seen. They said the FBI was the most storied institution for law enforcement, and it was. And it will be again very soon. But when the likes of Comey and McCabe and Strzok and company came in here with the James Bakers of the world and intentionally lied to a federal court only to rig a presidential election by lying to the American public and using taxpayer dollars, likely illegally, to fund this entire operation, and then withhold exculpatory information from a federal court that I used to appear before to manhunt terrorists, that's what broke the FBI. And then when they were caught, they lied about it. And you and a few others like Dan and others were brave enough to cover it 6, 7, 8 years ago. And we're still talking about it today because as Congress is working rigorously with us, the Crossfire Hurricane documents are coming fast and hard. And they're being sent there unredacted so we can have full accountability. And that's how you restore what the trust that was lost to the American public when it comes to the FBI.
Yeah, but come on, Director, with all due respect, we've been talking about this for a long time, and I've been demanding accountability for many, many years. One of the, you mentioned Comey, Strzok, and the rest, they've got TV shows, they've got media platforms, they're fine, there's been no accountability.
Well, look, it's a fair criticism, but what I will tell people is we weren't here in the FBI in the last 5 years when we had statute of limitations that were still in play, where we could have investigated criminal conduct. Most of these statute of limitations are 5 years old, and we will investigate criminal conduct where we find a righteous case to do so, and the law and the facts allow us to. But a lot of it we're precluded from. So we'll take the criticism, and it's rightfully so. Like, could we have done more in the past? Sure, people before us could have. But what we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. And I'm just telling you right now, as much as we know about Crossfire Hurricane, he and I just found out more last week. And we're continuing to work with Congress to put those documents out. That's how vindictive and vicious the former leadership structure here was. Not only did they bastardize the FISA process and lie to the American public, they withheld and hid documentation and put it in rooms where people weren't supposed to look. And it's a good thing we're here now to clean it up, and you're about to see a wave of transparency.
What do you mean?
Just give us about a week or two.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that the judge that gave a smack on the wrist on the one agent that lied and, misled the American people, that's the same judge who's back and stopping Donald Trump from doing things, isn't it? Judge Boasberg?
Yeah, I just got to push back. Listen, we've been here 2 months. He's been here a couple more weeks than that. I mean, we've been here 2 months. You're dealing with a 38,000 member organization and an approximately $12 billion budget.
Fair point.
Where To expect us in 2 months to dig up what was a 8-year, maybe longer, multi-year politicized investigation with multiple layers of processes, from Woods procedures being just thrown in the garbage can and flushed down the toilet bowl, to multiple layers of accountability where people lied and obfuscated. I'm not asking you to trust me. You want this done right, or you want it done quickly? Because you can't have it both ways. You want it done quickly, we'll do it. And you know what'll happen? Just what happened last time. Those same Spygate collusion perpetrators sued the government, got money, got all this shit. You want that? We'll do it. We'll do it quickly and do it wrong.
But are you saying you found things that even you didn't know about? I mean, you were
Yes.
at the core of this.
Yes.
Yes.
I was the lead Russiagate investigator for the House Intelligence Committee. And I've been on both your shows in a prior life talking about it. And I'm telling you and the American public that we have now found material and information and people who wanted to hide it from the world since we got in these seats. And we, as the deputy said, we are trying to do it in a fashion where not only are we informing the American public of what happened, but we can have accountability for it. And that takes a little bit more time. And when you layer on the fact that we are rolling out our priorities on violent crime and defending the homeland, you know, we're running a 3-part animal here, and we're going 100 miles an hour on each single one.
So important.
Wait, I want to add to that, too, because what the director's saying is right. You got to remember, we come in the morning, there's a portfolio of 100 level 10 items. If it's a level 9, which is a pretty big freaking deal, someone else fixed it. The only thing that gets to my desk or his is a level 10. That's the entire day. Look at his schedule any given day. I'll show you the palm card I have. It is filled from 7:30 to he leaves 7 at night, 6:30 at night. It's filled all day. We just can't focus on one thing. You want New York to go boom? DC to go boom? You want an OC organization to go hack into some cyber network and crack all of Fox News' holdings? We're dealing with all that stuff too. Everything's a priority. Everything's a priority. This is one of many things we're doing. It's not an excuse. It's just reality.
Now, the Democrats are turning on you, right? I mean, I saw your hearing the other day, and critics have accused you of using the FBI to target political enemies. So set the record straight. You wrote an entire book about it, Government Gangsters. Tell us, how do you respond to the attacks?
Very simply, the FBI's prior leadership left us an institution, that is a police force for America and the world, that allowed a fentanyl overdose to occur and kill an American citizen every 7 minutes. That prior FBI's leadership, Comey, McCabe, left us an FBI that allowed for a woman or child to be raped every 6.5 minutes in this country. That same leadership structure left us an FBI that permitted a man or woman to be killed twice an hour in this country. That's our response to them. When I go to Congress and I go to the Hill, I say, hey, I'm not policing your neighborhood because it's a Republican or Democratic. I'm asking you for help on what your priorities are and what your resources needs are and where you need training, and we're going to send them to you. That's why we're putting 1,500 FBI employees into the field and outside of Washington, D.C. Now, if the Democrats want to play politics with that, they're the elected officials. They get to say what they want. But yelling at me and Bongino, we could take it all day long.
I don't even understand why. Why did they do that? I mean, why put the FBI and its reputation at risk? What, it was just to win an election? Why?
Because they're weak. Because they're weak. I hate weak people. I can't stand it. They didn't have... we're on TV, so I already said BS once. But they didn't have the guts, the courage, or the character to do the right thing. They did the easy thing. Donald Trump became a convenient political football. They thought they could leverage. They thought they thought with the media on their side that they'd get away with it.
I know that there are cells, drug trafficking cells and human trafficking cells. How significant is this in America?
It's everywhere. I mean, when you open up the border, look, that's not a political statement. The border was open for 4 years. So what happens is crime metastasizes. What happens is you have hundreds of thousands of illegals come across, and a bunch of them are really bad criminals. Not all of them, but a bunch of them. And then they nest into societies. And this is why we're rolling out Mexican street gang task forces across the country, because it's not the international gangs that are just the problem. It's these inner city gangs that exist in 1 or 2 towns here and there and have metastasized and taken over the drug trade, the sex trafficking trade, the child forced labor trade, and the gang trade. They are all in, and no one has been focusing on them because our cities and our elected leadership has allowed them to live without being policed. But that's over now that Dan and I are in the seat.
This is so scary. What do you want to say to families out there, mothers who are afraid for their young girls that they may get taken?
I want to put everyone at ease watching this today. There is, I hate cliches, but there really is a new sheriff in town. His name is Donald J. Trump. This administration, in conjunction with General Bondi and our director, Kash Patel, I am in the briefing, Maria, with the five of us, Emil, the PDAG, Todd, the DAG, AG, Kash, and me, every morning over at DOJ. The attitude every morning from the president on down, he, the President of the United States, wants this FBI to be able to, in 1 month, 6 months, a year, or 2 years, wants to be able to get out in front of the American people and say, your lives are noticeably different. He doesn't want fairy tales, Aesop's fables. He doesn't want any of that stuff. He wants people to be able to touch it and feel it. I don't care if you're in Stewart, Florida, or Harlem, New York. He wants you to walk outside and say, wow, my neighborhood does look different.
Where are the biggest cells in the country? And how does it work? Are there spotters? Like, how does it work?
It's based on a variety of factors. So when it comes to trafficking, you got to look at the interstate system and look at the intersections of the interstate system running through the Midwest and across the country. Then you just got to look for hard evidence. I didn't know this till my confirmation process, but Memphis, Tennessee is the homicide capital of America per capita. Didn't know that. We have a problem there. We're now addressing it. We're rolling out one of our task forces in the state of Tennessee. But we also know that Ohio possesses the roadway system where the trafficking is through the roof just because of the interstate. So you have to get out there in the field, not just let the FBI agents and intel folks get out there and do the work, but partner with state and local law enforcement, which is a priority, and tribal law enforcement. That's a big, big deal for us. We are not forgetting about Indian country. They suffer from the same violent crime that we do in the rest of America, and we're going to help them. And that's how you learn the ground-based level facts that you need to deploy our assets. We're not coming up with anything fancy. We're just attacking the problem, but we're smart enough to go after the information and say, that's where the problem is because you told us it's there. Now we know we're going.
That's interesting. What about the big cities? I mean, we've heard about Tren de Aragua being in New York City.
Yeah, we're about to ruin your summer if you're a bad guy. So I'm just warning you now, like, don't buy movie tickets because you're probably not going to cash them in. So the director and I put something together in conjunction with our DOJ partners, General Bondi and Dag Blanche, actually this morning. And if you're a violent criminal, this FBI under our leadership, we don't care who gets the credit. All we care about is making your streets safer, actually safer.
So, thus far, what do you think? Are they giving you information that makes you feel a little bit more comfortable that something is going to happen, that we're going to see some people actually get into handcuffs and go to jail? All right, let's continue.
I want to get to a few specifics, and I know you can't talk about any active investigation, so and our viewers understand that. But how come we don't have more information on the assassination attempts on President Trump?
There's two reasons, two open, ongoing prosecutions. So 2 of the investigations are obviously closed because the individuals are dead, but there's 2 live prosecutions, and so we can't get ahead of the federal court case. A lot of that information will come out in the federal court cases, but we have personally invested our time in making sure that we have looked at any possible international connections to terrorism and adversaries alike. And we've both been down to Quantico, we've both done the laboratory testing, we've both seen the explosives analysis, we've both seen the firearm and physically held it. We are all in on these investigations.
Are we going to be surprised at what you learned?
You know what, Maria? Kash is not kidding. We've been personally briefed extensively on every single detail, nugget, tendril of this case. One is actively in court right now, so out of respect for the case, it's probably more appropriate that I stay quiet on that. However, I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth, and whether you like it or not is up to you. If there was a big explosive there, right? Given my history as a Secret Service agent, and my personal friendship as a director does with the president, give me one logical, sensible reason we would not have. If you can think of one, there isn't. There in some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there. And I know people, I get it. I understand. It's not there. If it was there, we would have told you.
Well, the other issue that's been talked about recently is this mortgage fraud and the FBI opening a formal case against Letitia James.
So again, ongoing cases, and we take our ongoing investigations very seriously because we don't want to do what our predecessors did, which is talk about them ad infinitum in the public and then nothing happens. This case, I can tell you, is being handled by our professional pros who are subject matter experts reporting directly to headquarters, which reports to Dan and I. This case, along with others, because it is a case of great public importance. And unlike other leaders who previously sat in these seats, we don't prejudge any case. We don't care what party elected you to what. It doesn't matter to us. It's irrelevant. If you broke the law, we are going to find out and we are going to investigate you. And then we are going to discuss that matter with the Department of Justice. And this is one of the things that, if your viewers take away nothing else from this interview, the FBI does not make prosecutorial decisions. You asked in the beginning how the FBI was weaponized. Well, the FBI hijacked the constitutional responsibility of the Department of Justice and the Attorney General, and James Comey and others specifically decided what cases to prosecute and not prosecute. Don't believe me? Go to the videotape in the Hillary Clinton investigation. We don't decide prosecutions, and neither does any agent or intel analyst. We have great partners under General Bondi. We work with them and discuss the matter with them, but the prosecutorial decision is with them.
So is there a directive now to focus on fighting real crime, look at illegal migration, look at the sex trafficking, and scale back on the white-collar business-type crime?
I don't want to say that we were going to, quote unquote, scale back. What we do is we look at the intelligence and we rely on our 36,000 employees to say, this is where stuff's going wrong. But right now, the reality of where stuff's going wrong more than counterterrorism, which is my wheelhouse and my background, is the narcotics industry and the sex trafficking industry. So there's more and more resources put on that and on the removal proceedings, which we're working with our partners at DHS on. That's just the reality today. But that's not to say we're forgetting about white-collar crime and counterterrorism.
That's what you said. You said if you're hurting a child, taking away a child's innocence, we're coming for you.
Yeah, with that knock at the door, it's on Amazon. That's going to be us. This is a huge job. And Maria, not only does it destroy innocence, I said to everyone in the room, say week 2 or 3, when Kash and I put Restoring Justice together to go get these mutts off the street, these kiddie pornographers and these animals, right? I said to everyone in the room, I said, you know why it's going to matter to America? Because everyone in the room is a child or a parent, right? There's no immaculate conceptions here, right? I love Jesus, but there's no one in the room, right? I said, this matters. And not only that, it creates generational crime because abused kids then become abusers in a lot of these cases. I said, we have a chance right now. I said, we got to go make their lives painful, these bad guys. And we went and we locked up in a month, 400? We saved 115 kids. And you haven't even seen the beginning because those 400, a lot of them are talking. And when you log onto that network next, you have no idea what we're doing. You think you're safe in your dark web? I promise you are absolutely not safe. You have no idea what we can do.
Are you seeing an increase in the number of potential agents wanting to come in and work with you?
Look, the FBI is 38,000 when we're fully manned, which we're not. In the National Capital Region, in the 50-mile radius around Washington, D.C., there were 11,000 FBI employees. That's like a third of the workforce. A third of the crime doesn't happen here. So we're taking 1,500 of those folks and moving them out. Every state's getting a plus up. And I think when we do things like that, we inspire folks in America to become intel analysts and agents and say, we want to go work at the FBI because we want to go fight violent crime and we want to get sent out into the country to do it. And that's what we're doing in the next 3, 6, 9 months. We're going to do that hard. And, you know, I didn't know that I was going to do this, but I'm going to announce it on your show anyway. This FBI is leaving the Hoover building because this building is unsafe for our workforce, and we want the workforce.
You just gave up a big nugget there.
But we want the American men and women to know, if you're going to come work at the premier law enforcement agency in the world, we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
I mean, the Trump administration has proposed a $500 million cut to the FBI's funding for 2026. How are you going to maintain the effectiveness if you don't have the resources?
We got to get smart and stop wasting money. We got to stop thinking up fantasies in Maryland and building $5 billion new buildings. We have people who are able to do the job on the budgets we're given. And we are going to work with the president and his team because he and his team know they have to budget for an entire government. I just got to worry about one agency. So does he. Yeah. And their job is 10 times harder than ours. They have to say, DOD's got to get this. What about DOT? What about Justice and Marshals? And what about Treasury? So we know that they are smartly putting together a budget. And we also know that there's ramifications from people here that weaponize this place and a cost to that. We're always going to fight for our personnel and for as much money as we can get. But I think when we show you real-time examples of getting out of places like this, because just to fix this building would cost billions of dollars only for a couple of years of runway, it shows you that we're serious about saving and being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars and hiring more agents instead of building new buildings.
So what are your colleagues saying about this, that you're going to get out of the Hoover building?
Well, he's a man of his word. I mean, he said that he was interested in shutting down Hoover, and I don't think people took him seriously. And it's been 2 months, and I think it's good that he broke it on your show, because me and him were on the tour yesterday of an alternate facility where the building we're looking at, and everyone was taking pictures, and they knew something was up because me and him were there. So that's good you guys got it first. But Kash could have made a pretty easy decision, which is go up to Congress and say, hey, you know what? We're going to go back and ask for this $1 billion new facility. And you know what he said? He said, go find us a place already up and running. We can go in. It's going to need some upgrades, skiffs where we can talk, safes, that kind of thing. Obviously, some security upgrades in the front. We are saving the taxpayer a fortune.
So are you going to move 1,000 employees from Washington to field offices across the country?
1,500.
1,500.
We are already launched that plan, and we've looked at.
They're going to Alabama?
Well, so Redstone Arsenal is one of the crown jewels of the FBI, and it's on a military campus of 38,000 acres in Huntsville, Alabama. And the FBI built 5 new buildings there, and a kinetic cyber training facility, a long-range facility, our terrorism explosive device centers there. So when you go and you want to become a new FBI agent, we send you to Quantico. When you're in the job for a couple of years and you need advanced training, you go to Huntsville. And because we've had new buildings and new structures already there, we need our outdated facilities and personnel to move to Huntsville, where the training has been set up for them, and fill those seats. We don't need to build new buildings elsewhere. So a chunk of them are going there because it's essentially headquarters too, for lack of a better word. But the rest of the folks, we've looked at the map and we said, where are the worst crime spots in America? That's how we're choosing where the agents and intel folks go. Then our leaders in the field are working with state, local, and tribal leaders to say, hey, we've got a serious problem on Navajo, or we've got a big deal going on outside of Chicago. Those agents and intel analysts are going there, at their direction, based on ground level intelligence. You want to make your promotions, go make cases in the field, and you're getting promoted under this leadership structure. You don't have to come to Washington. One of the biggest cost-saving things we did was we ended this TDY boondoggle to D.C. that has been institutionalized by prior leadership, mandating you come here. And here's the kicker. Not only do you get your salary, you get a per diem TDY for your entire 18-month tour. That's over.
I think they're both doing a really good job, but they're not really giving us anything to sink our teeth in. I could be wrong. You tell me. I don't really care about whether or not Epstein killed himself. I'd like to know where the files are. What do you think? Do you think that's enough to satisfy you? I don't know. We'll see what people think in the comments.
What actually happened on January 6th?
So there is, it seems that I find myself in a similar situation as Russiagate. Because on January 6th, in the prior Trump administration, I was the chief of staff to the Department of Defense. And I spent 4 years in a minor fortune litigating the truth because people politicized what actually happened on January 6th. And we now know unequivocally that President Trump lawfully authorized the deployment of National Guard, and me, as the head of the Office of Secretary of Defense, with the Secretary of Defense, took that action. When it finally came in, because it had to have the governor and mayor of D.C.'s approval on it. That's the way the law works. And once it finally came in on January 6th, remember, we offered to them days beforehand, and they rejected it. And we've put out the letters, and your show has done great coverage showing how it was rejected. We mobilized the fastest cold start in Washington, D.C. since World War II, and the largest occupation of D.C. by the National Guard since the American Revolution. That's what happened on January 6th, but what you and your viewers want to know, now that we've beat back that disinformation campaign with actual truth, is what was the FBI doing? Well, we got answers coming. We just found a trove of information, and it's on its way to Capitol Hill right now. And they've asked, and they're getting them, and you're getting answers on January 6th. You're getting answers on what sourcing was utilized, what money was utilized, how many assets were utilized, who made those decisions. You're getting it. We can only control the FBI, but you're getting it from the FBI.
Were there FBI agents undercover egging people on?
Like I said, that answer is coming, and it's on its way to Congress.
You're about to, I saw it. I saw the portfolio of information. We dug far and wide to find it. And I'm pretty sure now we have a conclusive, definitive answer. But you and the public are going to have it. You're going to see it in writing over to Capitol Hill. But I just want to be sure we're clear, having been an agent and a police officer. There is a difference between an agent, I know you know this, I don't mean to sound ridiculous, an agent, meaning a trained GS 1811 federal agent, and a source or an asset. There's a difference. So when you see the material, which I promise you is coming, again, I'm not asking you to trust us. I know it's coming because I saw it yesterday. When you see it, I just want you to understand that it's not an apology for anything.
Thank you.
But there's a difference between agents and assets.
Yeah.
And I just hope when people put that information out there, they make the distinction. Not that it's better or worse, but there's a distinction there.
It's a very important distinction.
And I want to level set here. I want the American public to go back and look at what our predecessors stated to Congress under oath, that there were no FBI sources utilized in and around January 6th. I'm going to leave it at that, but go play the videotape and look for this material coming to Congress.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work, but you promoted Stephen Jensen, the architect of the FBI's overzealous January 6th investigation.
I want the American public to realize what we did. That man was in a position where he literally fought back against the machine who was saying, we want to politicize this event. We want to politicize this event. And at the end of the day, remember, Maria, there's a chain of command here. So you can fight back your chain of command to a certain degree before they fire you. And Steve Jensen and other folks were promoted because they embody what the American public demands of FBI agents.
To get to the bottom of something like January 6th and the pipe bomber case, for example, you need three things. You need people, you need information, and you need people with information. I'll allow the public to put that together and just wait, and you'll see. Nothing we're doing, nothing is by accident.
People who are, quote unquote, supposedly on the side of reporting truthfully should take a look at this instance, because they are setting up circular firing squads. And Dan and I have already told the FBI, every employee that acted appropriately, we are going to defend you to the hill, literally, no matter the consequences. But for the media, who's gone through the disinformation cycle of Russiagate, of January 6th, for them to come in here and take the clickbait and write articles based on half-truths doesn't hurt us. This is what I'll tell you something I didn't think we were going to get into today. But every morning we tell our leadership cadre when we sit down with them, nothing written in the media is going to affect him or me.
Look, you said illegal alien criminals and child predators are next in your ongoing crackdown.
Oh, yeah.
How are you going to do it?
The illegal immigration problem with 20 million people came in. Yeah, okay, most of them probably were here to work in it, but a lot of them weren't. They were here to traffic in kids and fentanyl. If you were here illegally, the administration's approach, which the director and I have actioned through the agents in the field, is, listen, I'm speaking a bit hyperbolically, but correct me if I'm wrong, right? You're the lawyer. We're giving you about 5 minutes to cooperate. If you're here illegally, 5 minutes, you're out. Title 8, AEA, whatever we've got. We're not wasting an agent who's making, a decent salary, who we train. We're not wasting 3 weeks of his time to beg you for information for a proffer. We're not. We're kicking you out. The president's going to seal the border.
In the first 2-3 months that we've been in the seat under Donald Trump's administration, he has sealed the border. He has stopped border crossings. So where's all the fentanyl coming from still? Where's the trafficking coming from still? Where are all the narco traffickers going to keep bringing this stuff into the country? The northern border. Our adversaries have partnered up with the CCP and others, Russia, Iran, on a variety of different criminal enterprises, and they're sailing around to Vancouver and coming in by air. And the sheer tyranny of distance of the northern border and the lack of cooperation from federal authorities in prior administrations to actually firm up that northern border is what's causing a continuation of violent crime. Now, we're focused on it, and we're calling our state and local law enforcement partners up there. But you know who gets to step in is Canada. Because they're making it up there and shipping it down here. And I don't care about getting into this debate about making someone the 51st state or not. But they are our partner in the north. And say what you want about Mexico, but they helped us seal the southern border. The facts speak for themselves. The border that's open, I'll give you a statistic that I gave to Congress that nobody was paying attention to. Over 300 known or suspected terrorists crossed into this country last year illegally. Known or suspected terrorists, not illegals. Not just illegals, known or suspected terrorists. 85% of them came in through the northern border. Wow. This year, 100 known or suspected terrorists have crossed into this country illegally. 64 are south and north.
Gentlemen, we've hit on so much today, and I really appreciate your time.
I'm so happy that we were able to sit down with you so your viewers can see it. We're not doing a lot of media, and we're going to continue to not do a lot of media. But you have reported truthfully for years, even when it wasn't popular, when it wasn't fun, when it cost you money, and when it cost you personally. So that's why we welcomed you to the Hoover Building. We welcomed, yes, we do have an indoor shooting range, which we'll get you to soon. But we really appreciate you having the audacity to continue to report the truth.
All right, that's the interview. All 30 minutes or so of it. I didn't cut anything out. I wanted you to see every single minute of this interview. So you let me know what you think. It's a hot summer day here in South Florida, and that poll's looking really good right now. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.